When you look at the news, it seems like the world is really getting its act together on cyber warfare. We see all these headlines about big summits and international agreements, and yet the attacks just keep happening. So why is there this massive gap between what leaders say they're going to do and what actually happens? Well, that's the paradox we're going to unpack together today.
So check this out. In the exact same month, the entire world celebrates this huge diplomatic win, something that took 25 years to negotiate. And in that very same month, boom, major state-sponsored cyber attacks hit multiple continents. I mean, it feels like a complete contradiction, right? How can both be true? But what we're about to find out is that it's not a contradiction at all. It's the system working exactly as it was designed to.
Okay, so let's start by digging into this puzzle, this tale of two completely opposite headlines.
So here it is, the central question for us today. How on earth can both of these things be true at once? It seems totally impossible, but it's actually the logical outcome of a system that has a kind of hidden purpose. So, let's solve this mystery.
First things first, let's follow the paper trail. Because if you just look at all the diplomatic activity going on, you'd think we were living in a golden age of cyber peace. I mean, the sheer volume of work is just staggering. Seriously, there is no shortage of effort here. You've got UN committees, G7 initiatives, multi-stakeholder frameworks. It's a whole alphabet soup of organizations just churning out documents. On paper, it looks like the entire world is united, holding hands and creating a super secure cyberspace. And just look at the scale of this. Take the Paris Call for Trust and Security in Cyberspace. It has over 1,200 signatories. We're talking states, major tech companies, civil society groups, all pledging to follow the same set of principles. Sounds pretty impressive, doesn't it?
But here's the catch. The three countries with the most powerful offensive cyber capabilities, the very ones whose behavior these rules are meant to change, they never signed it. And that one single fact, well, it reveals the core problem with this entire approach.
And this isn't just a one-off thing, it's a clear pattern. Look at the Talon Manual. It's this incredible academic work on international law and cyberspace, but it's not a binding treaty. The UN has developed these 11 super important norms for how states should behave, but they're all voluntary. It seems like everything leads to the exact same place. Really impressive declarations that have absolutely no teeth.
So this raises a really crucial question. Why would the world's most powerful nations even bother showing up for these discussions if they have zero intention of actually being constrained by the rules?
Now, your first instinct might be to just call this what it looks like, hypocrisy, plain and simple. But the real answer is way more strategic, and it tells us everything we need to know about how power actually works in the 21st century. For a major power, participating in these talks is an incredibly smart strategy. It lets you shape the rules so they box in your adversaries more than they box you in. It's a fantastic way to gather intelligence on what other countries are thinking, and you get to look like a responsible, rule-following country, all while you're carefully avoiding any real commitments that would limit your own freedom to act. It's a win-win.
And you don't even have to read between the lines here. Just look at this quote from France's own national strategy. They say it right out in the open. Cyberspace is a theater of power. This isn't just about cooperation, it's about competition. We're building norms and building capabilities are two sides of the very same coin.
But it's not just governments at the table. A whole bunch of other groups are involved, from big tech companies to civil society organizations, and their role adds another really fascinating layer to this whole story.
And let's be totally clear, this is a genuine innovation. Unlike the old-school way of doing diplomacy, the cyber world has brought in all these non-state actors, because everyone recognizes that governments don't own or operate the internet. The diversity of voices in the room is genuinely greater than it's ever been.
But, and this is a huge but, this is where we see the crucial difference between being included and having real influence. This chart just makes it painfully clear. While a lot of groups get invited into the room, when it comes time to actually make the decisions, states are still holding basically all the cards.
It's kind of like being invited to a big, fancy dinner party, but having absolutely no say in what's on the menu. The input from civil society is heard, it's noted, it's summarized, but when the governments go behind closed doors to negotiate the final text, those voices often just fade into the background.
Okay, so we've seen why the current system produces all these fancy declarations, but not a whole lot of security. But does anything actually work? Let's take a look at what has proven to be effective.
Okay, this part is amazing. It really highlights the difference between politics and practice.
After 25 years of high-level diplomacy, what's the most lasting, most useful achievement? It's not some grand treaty or some lofty principle. It's an address book, a simple operational phone book that lets countries call each other up during a crisis to de-escalate. It's modest, it's practical, and unlike a lot of those declarations, it actually gets used.
This contrast really shows two fundamentally different approaches. On one side, you have the declaration model. That's all about principles and consensus happening in these slow, periodic meetings. The result is always the same, voluntary norms. But on the other side, you have the channel model. This is focused on real-time communication for managing a crisis, and the result there? An actual reduction in the risk of escalation.
So, what would it actually take to build a system that produces real security? Well, the source material points to three big things. First, you need binding commitments from the major powers. Second, you need real-time crisis management infrastructure, not just a phone book, but a real hotline. And third, you need everyone to be honest and admit that talking about norms and building military capabilities are two sides of the same coin.
And this brings us right to the final big takeaway. The giant gap between all this diplomatic activity and real-world security, it's not a flaw in the system, it's the system's primary feature. This entire machine is designed to produce one thing and one thing only: paper consensus between countries that have totally incompatible goals. It was never, ever designed to produce actual security.
So we leave you with this thought. We understand the problem now, we see how the machine works, but fixing it would require the most powerful states on Earth to accept constraints they've spent 25 years skillfully avoiding. It would require a level of cooperation that just seems impossible right now. So the question isn't a technical one, it's a political one. Are we willing to pay that price?